A green-tinted screen and Braille lettering pops up that turns into the white Lighthouse of Houston logo. The Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential cover art pops up on screen. There's a flash, then clips of Jennifer's eye, her walking down the hall, and reading Braille appear. A montage of clips from episodes of the podcast begins with Jennifer talking to our guests and smiling. It zooms in on the Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential cover art.
Hey everybody, welcome to Sightless Voices Unleashing Potential. I am Jennifer Parrish, your hostie with the mostie. And today we are joined by someone whose journey blends resilience, leadership, and a deep commitment to empowering others. Our guest is none other than Miss Kathy Gallagher, a guide dog user, a seasoned HR professional, and a leader connected to the national industries for the blind. Her story spans navigating vision loss, building a successful career, and championing opportunities for people who are blind or low vision. So, Kathy, thank you for being here. Yay!
Thank you for inviting me.
She came all the way to Texas to hang out. She had other business here, but we got her on the show, so yay. So let's just start off. Why don't you just introduce yourself and then tell us about your vision loss journey?
I'm Kathy Gallagher. I was born and raised in New Jersey.
Woo!
And I lost my sight totally by the time I was 5. I started losing my sight when I was 3. I am 4 of 6 children, and my mother just noticed different things, like when I would go pick something up off the floor, my eyes would go to the ceiling. So she took me to the eye doctors, and I had like holes in my retina, and by the time I was 5, I had no retina.
Dang.
And they had given me glasses, and at 5, the doctor, my mother saying she won't keep glasses on, and he said, well, that's because they're not helping her.
Right.
He said if they were helping her, she'd keep them on.
Who wants to wear those clunky things if they're not doing anything, man?
So I was very happy when the doctor said, oh, no, she doesn't need those glasses anymore. They're not doing anything for her. So I thought, oh, good, I don't have to wear these things.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So before we really get into it today, let me go ahead and describe the set for our blind and low vision viewers. We're seated in blue chairs with wooden tables beside us. Behind us is a white brick wall with soft blue lighting and a glowing neon lighthouse sign. All right. So you're just kind of talking about it, but everybody's blindness journey is totally different. So what does that process look like for you, or what did it look like for you emotionally and practically and then even socially?
Well, I think, I tell people I went blind at the perfect age because, I had already developed a lot of my motor skills. I was walking, I was talking, but I was not in school yet. So I went to kindergarten as a blind child and immediately started with the services from the Commission for the Blind.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you read Braille? Like, did they start you with
and
Braille?
And they start you in Braille and, so it was just like I was learning how to read Braille when sighted kids were learning how to read print.
Exactly.
So it wasn't a situation where, I envision that losing your sight as a teenager would probably be one of the worst times, So I never thought I was going to drive a car because I was always blind. I knew that wasn't going. Going to happen.
And it wasn't even that upsetting, right? Like,
it wasn't
sucks,
that
but
upsetting.
It's not that bad.
Because I didn't understand. I didn't think about the impact that it really had.
Exactly.
So I'm blind. I'm different, and I'll just learn to do everything. Differently. So I wasn't, and I was blessed to have a very good mother and father, but my father would have been far more protective of me than my mother in that she was a great advocate for letting me try things and do things. And they put me in the regular school system. We were Catholic. My siblings went to Catholic school, and that's where my parents wanted me to go. And the Commission for the Blind felt that the public school would be able to offer me more services if I had trouble. And my mother said, well, why are you going to right away think she's going to need more help? She might not need more help. she says developmentally, she's ahead of some of my other children when they were her age. So she says, I don't think she's going to need help. But if she does, we'll take her out of the Catholic school and put her in. But that didn't have to happen. So I had a very good accepting school, years in school, had a lot of friends, kids. I participated in everything. When we went out to play kickballs, the nun would assign someone to run with me and that kind of thing.
That's cool.
Yeah, so they were very, had me integrated into everything.
That's awesome. I love that. And then, so if you don't mind me asking too, like, are you totally blind? Do you have anything?
I'm totally blind.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right. And then, so you're a guide dog user.
Yes.
Which is awesome. We got Herman on the ground chilling. So hi, Herman. So talk about that partnership, and then what has that meant for your mobility and confidence in your daily routines?
Well, I always thought I would want to get a dog when I got out of college. I never wanted to have a dog while I was in college because I thought it would impede my college life some. I didn't want the responsibility of a dog
Right.
while I'm in college. I just wanted to focus on college life. So the summer between graduating from college and going to graduate school, I went to the Seeing Eye in Morristown. I always said I'd go to Seeing Eye. I was from New Jersey. You always hear about the Seeing Eye.
Totally.
So
That's in New York, right?
It's in North Jersey, Morristown, New Jersey.
Okay.
So I thought, that I didn't research any dog schools or anything. I just applied for Seeing Eye, got accepted, loved the experience, the sense of freedom. I could walk so much faster with the dog, more confident with the dog. Going to places that I'm not familiar with, I felt much more comfortable. So that independence, that freedom, that having that partnership, walking with you, other than just a cane. I mean, if you get lost with a dog, you're kind of like, what do you think, Karen? What do you think we should do? And, you have the dog's brain and their instincts that usually get you out of, trouble if you're lost. And so I would never go back to being a total cane user after having the dog experience. I mean, I still occasionally will use the cane.
Yeah.
For a particular reason or other. But for the most part, it's, I'm just a dog traveler, and he's my 7th dog.
I was going to ask you how many you've had. 7. Mm-hmm. Dang. Wow. That's awesome. What surprised you most about being a guide dog user?
I would say, I guess I never expected that it would be such a great feeling. Like, I never felt, I feel like when I'm walking down the street with a dog, I don't feel like this blind person walking down the street. I feel like I'm just walking down the street with a dog. Where when you have their cane, I feel like this tap, 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 you're
Right.
blind type of, thing. I think you're more recognized. And then the other thing was it's an icebreaker for people to talk to you. I mean, of course, they start talking about the dog.
Right.
But then they'll get into, well, why did you go blind or whatever. Now, some people don't like that, but
Yeah.
I don't care.
I've actually had several guide dog users say that it's totally an icebreaker because people are like, oh, look at him, and then it's like, oh, what do you do or whatever,
Yeah.
blah, 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 and then you meet people that way. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How has your blindness in general shaped your sense of leadership and the way that you show up in your career?
Well, I think as blindness has always made me feel like I have to be a little bit better than just good.
Definitely.
I had this itinerary teacher when I was in 7th grade. And I think one of the best things she ever told me was, Kathy, when you get, when the sighted kids get B's and that's okay, you need to get A's. She's like, you always have to try to be a step ahead of sighted people. She says, because it's going to be tough out there. And I know when I went to college, I pledged that I was never going to be late with a paper and ask for an extension, you know.
Right.
And, you know, I did that. I mean, I might have stayed up all night writing the paper, but it was always on time.
Right.
And then I didn't really experience I didn't feel like I experienced discrimination until I went to look for a job. I went to graduate school and everything was fine. All through college, everything was fine. Always felt instructors were reasonable and helping me, you know, give me the names of the books ahead of time. But when I went to start looking for jobs, that's when I realized, like, it's not the same. I'm not being, like, you know, when you have people say, well, problem is that, you know, your office would be on the second floor. Do you think you can walk up the steps? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I got here by a bus. You know, I think I can walk up those steps. But
Exactly.
that's when I really experienced this discrimination was with work.
Yeah. Yep.
And then once I got jobs, like my first job and my second job, I mean, I always felt equal, you know, people treated me equally. I had no problems connecting and relating with my coworkers. I mean, I got along fine.
Yeah.
But getting that first job was a little bit of a struggle.
Right. And then, so then we're going to talk about your career now. So you've got a career in HR. So you've built this strong career. What first drew you to that field?
Well, it kind of happened accidentally in that my major in college is psychology, and then I went to graduate school and got my master's in counseling and psychology. And I really wanted to be a therapist or a counselor.
Yeah.
And do family therapy or, you know, adult therapy. And I really thought I chose a career that was really kind of easy for a blind person, right? I'm like, and who's going to question if I can't talk to a person? You know, it's not like I wasn't going to be trying to fly airplanes or something.
Exactly.
But I went, you know, like I said, I looked 3 years for a job. And then this New Jersey, the Self-Help Clearinghouse, which was housed in St. Clair's Hospital in Denville, New Jersey, they had a project and they had a job opening for a self-help consultant. And the person's job would be to develop self-help and facilitate self-help support groups for people who were adjusting to blindness. It was a project of the New Jersey Commission for the Blind. And I thought, well, here's a good chance. Like, you know, I should be able to wing this one.
Yeah.
So I did. I got that job. And, like, I was offered the job, and 2 weeks later, I was moved from South Jersey to North Jersey and started working. And I did that for 4 years. But the first year into my career there, I did a presentation at the AER conference in New Jersey because the commission there was a task force on starting power transit in New Jersey. And I was on that task force. And they asked me to do the presentation at the AER conference.
Wow.
So I did it, and this guy named Bob Haney came up to me afterwards, and he says, we need you at National Industries for the Blind. And I was like, well, I've never heard of National Industries for the Blind. And he's like, well, you know, he tells me all about it, and he's like, and we need you to be our legislative specialist. You'd go on the Hill with our director of legislation and blah. And I was like, you know what, I'm really sorry, but, like, going on the Hill does not appeal to me at all. Like, I'm not into politics at all.
Right.
And I said, I'm really liking what I'm doing right now, and it's only done it for a year. So we kept in contact and back and forth. He'd send me people looking for jobs. I'd send him people, you know, also that had, you know, wanted jobs. And that's really what made me decide to go to NIB was that I found with the self-help support groups, no matter what rehabilitation they had, what they went through, once they found another job, everything fell into place. Their life was better. Their life, they could go be fishing, they could be doing this, they could be doing that. But these were men and women who had jobs and lost their jobs because of losing their sight. And until they got that job again, they just weren't happy. And I said, well, if I'm going to work in the blindness field, it's going to be in the area of employment. So that's why I went to NIB.
Nice. How has your lived experience as a blind professional shaped the way that you lead and hire and support employees?
I think it makes me more open and willing to, okay, this person might not have all 10 things we need for this job, but they have 8, and the 2 that we don't have are things that they could learn and be more flexible in that. I feel like when it comes to hiring people who are blind, yes, they have to be qualified. I'm not saying you just hire somebody because they're blind. You want them to be very qualified, but at the same time, I feel our mission at NIB to employ people, we need to be more open to providing some training.
Right.
And that's why through 1998, 99, into about 2008, we had a totally blind president, and he was very open and big on developing training programs for leadership roles, because he said if we're going to have more blind managers at our agencies, we need to provide them the training. And it was a very successful, program.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's, kind of my journey has been through, I was medical transcription forever and ever and ever and ever. And then somebody finally was like, hey, you want to manage a bunch of people? And I was like, I don't know if I really, but honestly, it's been so fulfilling. So it's just, trainability and just plain old faith in people, you know? And so, yeah. So, many people are really surprised by, the skills and the careers that blind professionals can excel in. So what do you think are some of the misconceptions that employers still unfortunately have about the capabilities of blind people?
It's hard to say what holds them back. I think one thing, they're so afraid that if they hire a blind person and the person doesn't do well, that they can't fire them.
Yeah.
I think there's laws out there, and we can't fire them.
No, you can fire them.
But you can fire them, just like you have to watch if you fire a sighted person for certain things. So
exactly.
I think that's one of the big things.
Right.
Another thing is the technology. Even though it's out there and we have a lot more technology, and it's definitely been a field, leveling the playing field for us in a lot of areas, it's still, blind people need a little more training sometimes in some of the
little one-on-one
stuff. Like the Excel, they have the basic, but if you have a job that requires a certain program or like a number of
a platform
a number of our we have a couple of our departments use Oracle, and and we have blind people working in it, but it took a lot of training, a lot of work, and a lot of
workarounds too,
to
right?
make it.
Yeah, because sometimes you even have to if they're a JAWS user, you have to work with Freedom Scientific, who is like the people that distribute whatever something. And to get them to label buttons and label certain things on the website, it doesn't come perfect. It's a lot of work that comes into it, but it's possible, man. It's possible.
It is. I was watching one of our customer care representatives train another blind person who just got hired, telling them with Oracle, it doesn't speak the different. So you have to count down 12.
Right.
And then you'll be in the right field.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the heck kind of way is this? You got to count. There's no way of really verifying if you were. So if you lost track,
Yeah, if you lost count, if you're like a little sleepy that day.
Or
11?
you're in a department that's like all around there was people answering phones and talking.
So you couldn't hear.
I thought that was crazy, but that's what they were doing.
Yeah, that's wild. All right, so some advice. So for somebody who's blind and who's trying to get hired, and maybe I can chime in a little bit on this too, because I'm trying to hire a bunch of people right now. So what practical advice would you give them, like whether it's about interviewing or self-advocacy or looking right or workplace misconceptions, all that kind of stuff?
Well, I would advise somebody to apply for jobs that they're qualified for. Not apply for something that they have absolutely
Don't get lofty.
no experience in.
Right.
Okay, that doesn't look good.
Right.
If they're missing one little thing or something, then apply and hope that on the interview you can sell yourself. I also, and this is so personal and it really goes back and forth, I don't identify being blind on my resume, but then once I get the application, the call for the interview,
Right.
I will identify. I'll say, I'm totally blind. Is there, if there's any paperwork that you need me to complete that day, you can email it to me and I complete it, or if you have someone to assist me when I get there, that's fine too.
Right.
So at that point, it's hard for them to say, oh, we don't want you anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you go that extra step and you have the interview and you really hope that you're able to sell yourself and whatnot.
Yeah.
And, dress professional.
Yeah.
And be professional. And if you can, another thing I used to do, if I went through a whole interview and no one asked me anything about being blind or how I was going to do something as a blind person, I would bring something up. I would say, and if you're wondering,
Yes.
How I would read printed material, I have a, I have a scanner.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if you're wondering how I'm going to get to work every day, I would tell what my transportation plan was. Mm-hmm. Because my belief is they have questions, but once again, they're afraid if they don't know what they're allowed to ask and not allowed to ask.
Exactly.
And if they don't have their questions answered, chances are they're not going to bother hiring. So I think it's always good to, bring up something,
Right. Or they have a preconceived notion that they're like, I'm not going to hire them, so let's not even talk about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. All right, so we're going to move on now and talk about NIB because, Lighthouse has partnered with NIB for a long time. I remember meeting you vaguely in 2008. I was very blessed to be the Employee of the Year that year, and so I was at the conference and had to give the big speech and all that kind of stuff. Woo, that was scary. It was scary. But anyways, so, we've been around and connected for a while. So tell us about your connection to the national industries for the blind, and then how that relation began, and what does NIB's mission mean to you personally and professionally?
Well, as I said, it began when I met Bob Haney at the AER conference, but until that point, I didn't know anything about them. Then when I got hired in 1989, and I started, going to conferences and doing things and working directly for Bob, I felt like I really believed in the mission, and I felt most, the people at NIB believed in the mission. And I know that there was conflict, like, does blind people, should be working in workshops and all that kind of stuff, right? That was a big thing. And I had to, look at the situation, and my final thought on the plan was, well, they needed jobs. And there's a lot of sighted people working in manufacturing jobs, and no one's worried about, is that where they belong? So, and these are adult individuals, and if they don't want to be working at a factory, then they should work at what they had to do to get out of there. So I just kind of thought, people have the right to make the choice where they want to work.
Right.
And as time went on, and NIB is not the organization it was when I started. There's a lot of changes. And for the most part, all good in that the changes grew the program. It no longer is it just working in manufacturing type jobs.
Services now.
And now we have services. And we went from manufacturing to warehousing and switchboard operations. And then we went to taking over the base supply stores where people could be sales associates running the stores and managing the stores. And so that was another type of employment. Then we got into the contract closeout specialist program where we trained people, and then they're, closing out government contracts. And if they work for, we've had one or two people leave the contract job with one of the agencies and went right to the government where, they're
directly to the government.
Yeah,
right.
and they're getting paid better and they're government employees. So
Yes.
that was another different kind of, job. And we just tried different things. We have a lot more types of job opportunities that blind people can do under the Ability One program. So that I feel very, good about.
Yeah, for sure. What does an inclusive hiring process actually look like from the inside? And then what changes would you like to see more organizations adopt? Because I'm sure there are some.
Well, inclusive, I think everybody should be considered who's qualified. You pick up, you have your managers pick their top 5 or whatever, top 3 people, and they should be, all interviewed and included. If one of those or 2 of those folks are blind, I think at National Industries for the Blind, whose mission is to enhance and create employment for people who are blind, they should have some type of little priority. If you have 2 people almost equal, I think the blind person should get the job. And I say almost equal because, I don't think it's fair to say, oh, well, this person has 2 years in experience and the blind person only has 1. Well, that blind person, like me, had to spend 3 years looking for a job to get the first year of experience. So, it's much harder for us to get work experience. So, and I think we also should be more willing, for the training and whatnot. So I think the opportunities that blind people have aren't the same as what sighted people have. So therefore, there should be some leniency. Now, I don't expect that's going to happen in the regular workplace, but I would hope that the workplace is open enough now that they don't just shut someone down because they're blind. They're willing to look at what the person accomplished and what they were able to do.
For sure.
And I think when losing resumes and I was choosing who should be interns and who should be in our business leader program, I was often involved in that selection. I always look at how well-rounded is the individual.
Right.
If they got straight A's, if they were a 4.0 college student, but then I had a college student that's 3.5, but they also was the president of their class and they belonged to this committee and they, did this act,
right. Well-rounded.
Well-rounded. I picked a well-rounded person.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So.
For sure. Because it's trainability back to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what I would hope for the future is, people and employers just be more open to the differences and open to trying to get blind people and not be afraid that if the person doesn't work out, they can't fire them.
Right. Because let's also say this. Blind people want it. Like, they want it
Yes.
bad. So you're going to get a hard worker out of a blind person if you actually take the chance 99% of the time.
Yeah, and they're not going to, because it's so hard to get a job, they're not going to be leaving and moving jobs.
No,
That's right.
longevity is also a thing.
Is going to be a thing.
Excellent, absolutely. And then speaking of future, what do you hope that the next generation of blind professionals takes away from organizations like NIB?
I would hope that they take away that they have opportunities and they're out there for them, and they have to work at making things happen themselves. The world's not here to give them things on the silver platter.
Definitely not.
And so
You got to work.
You got to work, and it might take harder work on a blind person than a sighted person, and that you got to have all your ducks in a row when you're applying. You have to have transportation plan. You can't be not showing up for work because Power Transit didn't pick you up.
Right, or you forgot to make your reservation
and all
blah,
that.
blah, blah. Man, you got to be on it. That's like
You gotta
that
be
reminds
on
me
it.
of my parents, man. Like going like you back to saying you got to be better than everybody else, man.
Yeah.
My parents hammered that home. Boy, did they ever! Like you got to be better than everybody. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And so it's a good mindset to be in.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing I would encourage our younger generations, I think we have a lot of things available to us, like Power Transit and whatnot. But I encourage people, like, don't let that take over. Like, don't not be afraid to go take a public city bus.
Yeah.
And I think that's happening. I think don't let your mobility skills, your social skills, are as important as having the skills you need to do your job. If you go into the office, and you can't relate to your coworkers, you don't know how to be interdependent, be able to ask them for help when you need it, but then offer to help them when they need help.
Right.
And you don't know how to, leave the building and walk up the street and come back with Starbucks with everybody, that kind of thing, then you're shortening yourself. People want you to be. I think one of the biggest compliments I get is sometimes when people tell me, "Oh, we forget you're blind."
I love that one too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Success. I
Yeah.
did it. It's true.
So that's a good thing, and
Yes.
I also think it's good for the public to see me at the metro getting on the train
Yep.
with a guide dog, and like, oh, she goes to work every day.
Yep.
Where these people getting on I'm not criticizing people who use Power Transit, but if you're getting on Power Transit, the public's not seeing you at the bus stop
Doing
or
your
at the
thing.
train station doing your thing. So
Yeah.
I think it's important, just like it's important for people to go out and use the adaptable voting machines that people
Yep.
see blind people voting.
Yep, because we can vote just like everybody else. And those things are pretty cool and they're pretty easy to use.
They're about one of the easiest.
Exactly. Vote, people.
Vote.
Vote. Anyways, I digress. All right, so we're about to wrap it up here. But do you have any final advice for somebody, blind person who's trying to get hired, whether it's interviewing, self-advocacy, or navigating the workplace misconceptions?
My advice is be persistent.
Yep.
And don't give up, and try not to get discouraged. It takes time. And I think things are better than years ago. But I'm like, you're worth it. It's worth it. Taking the attitude like, I tried. I can't get. No one's going to hire me, and being satisfied with just staying home and collecting Social Security. It's not good.
No.
And I think, if you don't have a job, you don't have a regular income, then coming in that's going to support any kind of, how you going to take trips, how you going to travel, how you going to enjoy life. You don't want to just stay home and wait for your SSDI check to come in the mail.
Exactly. What's that? How does that feel good?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I would encourage people, just jobs are out there, and look at what you enjoy. I was at a conference and heard a presentation on space camp, and that was so neat that these little kids are learning about rockets, and and they're blind, and people say, well, they're not going to. Well, maybe they're not going to go to the moon, but who knows what technology we'll have by the time some of these kids grow up.
I'll tell you what, speaking of space camp, so my partner in crime, he went to space camp when he was little. He's also visually impaired. And so, we have NASA here in the city. I also interviewed a gentleman named Michael McCullough who worked for NASA. So it's a thing. And there's nothing we can't do if we don't, we're differently able, but we can certainly get it done. So anyway, we're going to end on that. But, your journey is a powerful, powerful reminder that leadership, purpose, and possibility are not defined by eyesight, but they are defined by skill, determination, and the willingness to fully show up. So there's that. All right. So to our listeners, we hope today's episode inspires you to take action. Whether you're navigating your vision loss journey, seeking community, or exploring new career paths, stories like Kathy really remind us that opportunity grows whenever you challenge assumptions and then lead with inclusion. All right, so you can find more episodes of Sightless Voices, Unleashing Potential, wherever you get your podcasts, and on our YouTube channel if you want to see our faces. So like and subscribe and share and do all those things because we love that. Be sure to follow the Lighthouse of Houston on social media for updates, and then visit www.houstonlighthouse.org to learn more about all the cool stuff we are up to. So until next time, keep moving forward and stay connected to the community that lifts you up.